Hey, welcome to another video. My name is Brian, and today I decided I'm going to do another video about the Android uh, Bible application called MySword. And my last video I posted, I said that I was done. But what I did is I was looking through some of the things that I had saved on a cloud drive, and I saw some screenshots of some things that I posted or used as a discussion a long time ago. And I ended up either posting them or reposting them onto Twitter. And I thought this would be a good way to show you the strength of this particular application. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off here in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. And so it says, "For the command is a lamp, and the Torah is a light." So the translation I'm using here is called the Scriptures, and it's the 2009 version. And what they like to do is, instead of using the word law, they will just go ahead and put in what the Hebrew word here is, and that is the Torah, or the commands or the law of God. And I will go into the interlinear here, and I will show you that the word here, this is again one of those examples of where I did not click on the particular word or verse that I'm wanting to use. This thing right here is aggravating. So let's see. Let's go back here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. We need to click on verse 23, and now I can click on the interlinear. And let's see. There it is, in the Torah. The Torah. So let's take a look at a couple of different words in this verse here. I want to focus on, and the Torah is a light. Okay, so these are things that I call equalities in the Bible. And what I mean by that is where we get, okay, so the command is a lamp. Okay, command equals lamp. And the Torah, a light. So Torah equals light. Okay, let's click on this just to see. Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Well, what's interesting here is your word, the word that was existing at the time that David wrote this. It was pre-prophet. It was before any kind of prophet had written anything, because all the major and the minor prophets and everything, they were sent to Judah and Israel to get them to repent before they were taken into captivity, or either by the Assyrians for Israel or the Babylonians by Judah. So the things that existed at this time, or what existed at this time as Scripture, as the Word, was the Torah. Okay, so these are things, like I said, these are things that I call equalities. Command equals lamp, Torah equals light. Okay, so let's take a look at something. And like I said, other translations will say the law. Okay, right here. In fact, let's take a look at a couple of them. You'll see, for the commandment, for is a lamp the commandment of the law, and the light. Okay, so instruction, that's another thing for Torah. But you'll notice that law is what a lot of translations like to use here. The law is a light, the law is a light. The King James says the law is light. All right, so let's go back to my interlinear. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at two different words here. We're going to look at Torah, and I'm going to show you that this is the instructions of God, right? This is the first 5 books, but it's not so much just that. Anything that God instructs, commands. And the thing is, the reason I don't like to use certain words, because law, there's a connotation that goes along with that, especially in the Christian church, that they're like, I really don't like that. We've been programmed to dislike or be done with the law of God. Okay, but I like to think of them as an instruction book, because he says if you do these things, you will be blessed. But anyway, so that's this word Torah here. And let's go back to my Bible, and we're also going to look at the word for light. It's or, the Torah, or the Torah, the command is a light, and that's the word or, and that's really interesting. I click, and for some reason it goes all the way to the top. But hit select here, and you can see the different words that it's used for light. And I think this is the word that we're going to look at. But I'm going to click right here, and we're going to look at all the different ones. And sure enough, here it is, phos, or phos, excuse me. So let's click on this. And what's nice is, we can see, a definition. In the King James, it translates it mainly as fire and light. And like I said before, you can come down to one of these Strongs, and I actually have a list of all the places that it's used in the Bible. And we're going to go to that, or one of these, here in just a minute. But this concordance thing will do that as well. So you can see that there are 44 occurrences of this Greek word in the New Testament. So using the equality that I was talking about, that the Torah, the instruction, is light. Let's keep going and see what we can figure out from that. Let's go back to the Bible, and now I'm going to kind of switch bases. I'm going to go back to my translation, and I'm going to change the Bible, or where we're at. We're going to go to John chapter 8. You notice I use this shortcut, so I'm not going to Matthew, but we were way up here in Proverbs. So a shortcut Matthew, and then I'm going to choose John. I'm going to go to 8, verse 12. All right, so let's see. So this is the 8, verse 12. Where did 12 go? All right, so this particular version, like I said, likes to use Hebrew or transliterated words like Torah in English. But this is the name of Jesus in Hebrew, or at least Yehoshua. That's what I believe it's pronouncing here, Yehoshua. And that's the same name as Joshua. And, just to kind of fill you in, since we're on this topic right now, since we're talking about it, Joshua, his birth name, whatever you want to call it, what his family gave him was the name Hosea, or Hosea. And Hosea comes from the root to save. But Moses changed his name from Hosea to Yehoshua, which is basically, Yeho is a prefix containing the name of God, and then Shua is salvation, so it's along the lines of God's salvation. And that's essentially what Jesus' name means. Jesus, his name in Hebrew was Yehoshua, or Yeshua was for short. And so this is, in my opinion, this is what they're trying to spell out here, is Yehoshua. And the reason I say in my opinion, this Vav here, it could be a O, a U, a V, or W, or I'm not even going to get into it. But therefore, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall by no means walk in darkness, but possess the light of life. Okay, so here we have another equality. Okay, this is where Jesus, Yeshua, is saying that he is the light of the world. Okay, so what's interesting here is that, if we put those two together, let's see if we can do this quickly. We'll go back. I'm long pressing on that, and we're going to go back to I clicked on a bunch of different things here to show you, but we're going to go back to the Bible for Proverbs 6:23, and we'll see that the Torah is light. And what did I say? I think we clicked on this, and it took us to Psalm 119. The Word is a lamp and a light. So the Word. What's interesting here is, if you remember, John chapter 1 tells us something rather interesting that will fit in with all this. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. Okay, we know that the Word became flesh and pitched his tent among us, right? Okay, so who is the Word that's being talked about here? Well, I think this is probably unanimous that everybody believes this to be Jesus, Yeshua. So put this verse in with John chapter 8. Let's see, I'm not going to be able to get to it this way. So put this verse in with John chapter 8, verse 12. So now we have, I am the light of the world. Well, guess what? Proverbs tells us that the Word equals light. And now we know that Jesus is the light, and we also know that Jesus is the Word. So we continue to get these equalities. So we can say, okay, the Word, the Torah, is light. Jesus is the Word. And I also believe that he is the commands of God. He is the embodiment of that. I believe that what he spoke was the commands of God. I believe he spoke the Torah. And we also have that Yeshua, Jesus, is the light. So he's the light and the Word. The Word is the light and is also Jesus. Okay. So with that, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you this. We're going to get into this verse. And instead of clicking on this is my Hebrew interlinear. This is going to be my Greek interlinear. And this is just the one that I use. It's got the least junk going on. And when I say junk, I mean I've got some of these things that have just a ton going on. I mean, look at all these versions that I have, and it even helps you dissect, the subjects and the predicates and all of that stuff. But we're just going to be simple. We're just going to go back to our ABP. It's the Apostolic Bible Polyglot, I believe. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for this word light, which is phos. We're going to click on it, and we're interested in where these verses, we're going to look at some different verses where phos is used. There's 44, but I'm going to look for one in particular. Let's see if we can find, Matthew chapter 5. I believe it's Matthew chapter 5. Let's see here. Let's just do this. Let's go to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. And I'm going to go to verse 16. Yeah, so let radiate the light, and that is phos, right? Here it did again. And I think it's just because I'm using a mouse on my cell phone, because I don't have this problem when I'm using my finger on my phone. But phos, this is it. So why don't you see Matthew 5 on this list? That is interesting. I wonder if we'll see it on the Strongs, because it's got more, 70. This King James concordance is interesting. So there we see it, Matthew 5:14, Matthew 5:16, which is the verse. So I'm not sure why this particular resource has fewer, but here we go. So I'm not feeling like I'm crazy. There it is, Matthew 5:16. So now let's look at it, now that we did all that. Let your light so shine before men, so that they see your good works and praise your Father who is in heavens. Okay, so this has a couple of different things that we could talk about. Okay, light and works. Okay, so this is Jesus talking, right? This is the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5. And if you come up here, you'll start to see that there is some, I'm going to use the word congruity, and that may be the wrong word, but for some reason that's the one that's coming to my head here. But you can see that Jesus is not shifting gears a whole lot here, okay? He's staying on a single topic, and I'm going to tell you what that is, okay? He's talking about being the salt of the earth. He's talking about being the light of the world. Okay, what is light? Remember the Torah. Okay, it is impossible for a city. I guess it's talking about on a hill. For a city to be hidden on a mountain. Where do they light a lamp and put it under a basket? But on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house. Let your light so shine before men, so that they see your good works. Okay. But he talks about up here, blessed are the meek, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And as a side note, let's see where this takes us. Do we know what the Old Testament tells us about what righteousness is? I'm trying to find to see if the cross-reference happens to go there, and of course it does not, so I'm going to take you there. We're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 6, and I believe it's all the way at the bottom. And it is righteousness for us when we guard or keep, this word is shamar, when we guard or keep to do all this command. Now this command that he's talking about is, all of the Torah that was given to them to this point. And I've heard something that was interesting. Some suggest that Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers were all dictated to Moses by God himself. And Deuteronomy is a commentary, not necessarily a commentary, but a what's the word I'm trying to say? Is a Cliff's Notes, or a summarization by Moses on what he believed was going on. So now let's go back. So we're reading about all these different things. He's talking about how to live righteously. And so we get down here to the salt of the earth and the light. Let your light so shine before men. Then he says, do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I didn't come to destroy, but to complete. Okay. Some put the word fulfill here. And what's interesting is that this, from some of the studies that I've done here recently, this is a Pharisaical, I guess I'm going to say saying, because I can't think of what it is, what they call it. But essentially, when they believed that somebody was correctly, commentating on correctly, interpreting correctly the commands or the Torah, then they would say that that person was fulfilling the Torah by correctly interpreting and putting forth a correct, interpretation or commentary. Somebody was known to be destroying the Torah if they were improperly interpreting the commands. What's interesting is the Jews, they believe that when the Messiah comes, because they're still waiting for the Messiah to come, right? They believe that when the Messiah comes, that he will be able to interpret even the spaces between the letters in the Torah. So he says, "For truly I say to you, till the heaven and earth pass away, one," this is yod or tittle. The yod is it looks like a little apostrophe. Tittle, I've heard, is possibly a little decorative hook on a letter. Shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. Okay, so what's interesting is that we're given this saying that heaven and earth will pass away before one small mark in the commands would be done away with, right? And then he says, "Whoever breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so." Which commands? Okay, some people want to suggest that Jesus, he gave his own commands, but this is very, very early. We're at Matthew chapter 5. This is very early in his ministry, and he's not talking about any new command that he may have given, which some would like to suggest. He's talking about these commands. What commands? The Torah and the prophets, the instructions of God given in both of these. "And teaches men so shall be called the least in the kingdom of the heavens." Okay, but whoever does and teaches them will be great in the kingdom of heaven. Here again is the righteousness. "For I say that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes or the Pharisees, you shall by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." So what I'm trying to say here is all of this stuff, all of it, I believe he is talking about one particular thing. He's talking about being obedient. And what are you being obedient to? Well, you're being obedient to the commands or the Torah, okay? So when he says to let your light so shine before men, what does that mean? Okay, well, we found out in Proverbs that light, the command is a light, and the Torah is a light, right? And we also found out from John chapter 8 that Yeshua is also the light, but he is also the Word of God, which also ties in with that first equality, the one that says the Torah is a light. So what is he talking about when he says to let your light so shine? Well, he means to be obedient and to be openly obedient so that others may see your obedience to God. Well, maybe that doesn't make any sense to you, but these are also your good works, okay? And I have done a study on what works are, because if we don't have a proper understanding of what works are, then we're destined to never actually keep them. We have to, we're destined to never actually do them. If you were to go ask Joe Blow, churchgoer on the side of the road, you're going to find that people believe that if you just act right, if you do good, what are all those things? Well, if you don't steal, if you don't kill, well, okay, we're starting to get into the commands of God. But they think that it's just being a good person. You can be a good person all you want to, but that's not what the works are. And you can go into your study of James, where James says, look, you can have faith, and that's good. Have faith, because faith is and I'm paraphrasing, but faith is the beginning here. Faith is just the foot getting in the door. To keep that, he says that your faith must produce good works. He says your faith must produce works. If it doesn't, how can that be saving faith? And so here again, this is just yet another place where the Bible is telling us, hey, look, you know what? Light, it has to do with good works. And I told you earlier what the light was in Proverbs. And I'm telling you also in John and in Matthew, and it's all over the place. It is all over the place in the Bible. So the point is that I'm trying to tell you is that these little equalities, they mean something. And it's like a code book in your Bible studies. and they're important in helping us understand, because the Bible, we have to allow the Bible to interpret itself. Okay, if we use external things, especially nowadays when we don't even have a clue, what the original writer intended, because our way of thinking is completely different. I like to give a case in point on these things. One that sticks out of my mind all the time is, we talk about having our future in front of us, and the reason it's in front of us is because we walk forward, and as we walk forward, we're going into our future. It's ahead of us, and we're going to enter into it as we continue to walk. And our past is behind us because we've already walked through it. Well, the Hebrew mind is the exact opposite. To a Hebrew, the knowable is in front of them. So because their past has been already lived, they know it. It's not something that is hidden from them. What is hidden from them is their future, which is, something they can't see, which is what is behind them. They can't see behind them. So if we don't start to look at scriptures the way that they would have us to, or let me rephrase that, if we don't look at the scriptures the way that they used to, the way that the writers used to, that we, the reader, the intended reader at that time was meant to read it and understand it, then we're going to miss a whole lot. And I believe that's actually what is going on, is that we are missing an awful, awful lot. And what's interesting, since we're on the Beatitudes here, blessed are the poor in spirit. Have you ever thought about that? It's like, how can this word poor, how can that be right? Okay, so a lot of times we'll sit here and think, well, poor means, you can think, well, it just means lowly in spirit. Okay, the poor in spirit, they're lowly, maybe they're humble or something like that. Well, you know what? That's on the right track. But let's take a look and see what the Greek says here for the word for poor. Poor. Yeah, it's talking about, okay, beggar, pauper. Let's see, beggarly. Absolute or public. Wow, I've never seen that word before. Mendicancy. So it's basically, to be devoid of money from. Let's see what this. Just being, out of money, out of alms, destitute of wealth, influence, possession. Okay, so how is it that, if we go back to the Bible verse here, how is it that we can be completely or totally destitute of spirit? Then, hey, guess what? We can inherit the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. That doesn't make any sense. So what we have to do is we have to take a look at something. And what's interesting is, let's do this. I've not actually tried to see if this is going to work, so we're going to see. We're going to click on this. And we're going to look at some of these words. And you see some of these words right here are used to say the word poor. And from what I've been told is that, actually, you know what? Let's not do that. We have some tools here, and that's what this is for, to learn or to use this tool. So let's do this. We've got our Strong's number chosen. Let's go back to our verse. And I actually have some Hebrew translations of the New Testament. But I gotta go here. All right, so let's find the Hebrew translation. Okay. Oh, here we go again. So what I think is interesting, I cannot tell you why exactly, but this word right here is ani. Ani. Aniye or Naye. So anyway, I'm not sure why that extra yod is there, but if we were to go back to this word right here, you can see that this is a particular version of that word. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select it here. And so now we've got this Hebrew word, ani, and we find that it means poor. But that word also means humble and lowly. So what I'm trying to say here is that the Greek means destitute, missing something. The Hebrew actually does mean poor, but it also means humble. And the stuff that I'm learning here lately is that there's an awful lot of proof to show that the New Testament was mainly, if not mostly, written in Hebrew originally. And I'm doing a study where, in fact, I've taken some screenshots of some manuscripts that were produced, or not produced, I'm not sure where they were produced, but the Vatican has them. And from my understanding, they didn't even know what they had, but they were Hebrew, basically Hebrew fragments of the New Testament. And it was the Gospel of John, and I think maybe Luke or Mark. No, it was Luke and John. And so anyway, there's a lot of information out there to suggest that the New Testament was originally written in Hebrew. And as I'm learning this, I'm seeing a lot of passages that were strange to me open up. And this particular verse right here, this should read, "Blessed are the humble in spirit." And we may actually get there from that, because we're not going to think, okay, with the destitute or the lacking in spirit. But that's what the that's what the Greek word means, lacking or destitute in spirit, because theirs is the kingdom of heaven. But doesn't it make sense? The humble in spirit are the ones that will inherit. So anyway, hopefully I was able to take this application and show you a little bit more about the things that you can do with it, and also tied it in with a little bit of teaching there. But I thought it would help and make some sense to you. So I can see here now that I'm at 33 minutes. So I'm going to end it here. Thanks for watching. If you like the video or you would want some more, let me know by commenting or liking or subscribing. I'd appreciate that. But I hope you guys have been blessed. Have a good day, evening, or whatever it is that you're watching this now. Thanks.